Welcome to Coffee Meets Cloud, where three women in tech come together to share real stories about leadership, life, and everything in between. Join our hosts, Karami McCollum.
In other news, these headphones, I'm going to have to do something else. I am on fire.
Cassandra Parker.
It's pretty basic. We have to stay fully caffeinated in order to do all the things that we do.
And Rachel Rogers.
I don't know if we can survive this. I feel like this one goes in the vault.
Your go-to source for candid conversations and unfiltered insights. So, grab your coffee, pull up a chair, and join the chaos.
Welcome back to Coffee Meets Cloud. How are you ladies doing today?
Woo! Awesome.
We're at a turning point here. We have our first guest today.
Yeah.
I'm so excited. So we're just going to dive right in here. Our guest today is the founder and CEO of Tier 4 Group and board president of Women in Tech. She has spent years navigating boardrooms, building high-performing teams, and witnessing far too many talented people burn out chasing someone else's version of success. That's exactly why she's made it her mission to challenge the old script. She's lived both sides, climbing the career ladder in heels that pinch, juggling everything from new parenthood to seasoned leadership, and asking the hard question, is the hustle really worth it? Today, she helps individuals and organizations rethink how we define progress, creating space for growth that actually aligns with real life. We're so excited to have her with us for some real talk about what she's up to now and how she's helping to replace the outdated career ladder with something far more human. Betsy Robinson, welcome to the show.
Woohoo!
Thanks for having me. That intro makes me sound so much more interesting than I really am. I love it.
Betsy, we're so glad you're here. This is so long in the making. Like, how long now have we been trying to line this thing up? We've got a jet setter on our hands, so nailing her down is quite
1
the
hour
job.
of 1 hour of uninterrupted Betsy time is like costing us $1,000. No, I'm just kidding. It's really not.
It would be much more expensive, just for the record.
Y'all are too funny, but it's been months in the making, and I'm very excited to be here.
We're the kind of friends that hype you up, man.
Right.
You're a celebrity in our eyes.
Absolutely.
I love it.
All right, so
I love
let's
it.
start
I
with
love
some
it.
get to know you questions, Betsy. The first thing we have to know, because this is Coffee Meets Cloud, is do you drink coffee? If so, what is your coffee order when you're out and about? If not coffee, what is your caffeine of choice?
I do love coffee, and if I'm out at a coffee shop, it's going to be some sort of fancy latte. Like I was in Dallas a couple weeks ago, and I had a cardamom latte, which was amazing. Probably a
A
pumpkin
what?
spice, probably
What
a
was that?
lavender,
The
a
first one?
cardamom.
And that
It's
is
like a spice.
It's a spice. You don't know
Oh.
cardamom? The cardamom's usually in like pumpkin pie spice, right? It's part of that whole
Yeah.
like
Oh.
cinnamony, nutmeggy.
Ooh.
The thing I don't like about PSLs. Sorry, Cassandra's a hater on the pumpkin spice, but
That's terrible. It's
I know.
PSLs are amazing.
I love that.
But
I
yes,
didn't know people called it
love coffee.
PSLs, so I'm learning all sorts of things today.
You didn't know that? Oh yeah, that's
I mean,
a
how
total white girl
rude to
thing.
say pumpkin
PSLs.
spice lot? You know what? It's like the kids. No cap. You've got the Riz. Like, what is wrong with the
Oh.
Webster Dictionary words for these things, friends?
And now, like, Kenley's on homecoming court, and so we talk about HOCO. I'm like,
Ugh.
HOCO. When did we
Oh,
turn
it's HOCO?
homecoming? Right. When did we turn homecoming into HOCO?
It's too hard to say the full word, Rachel.
Exactly.
I guess.
Like, got to be efficient
What
with
about
time.
6, 7? Do
Oh,
y'all
what
still
is that?
do that?
What
6,
is that?
I don't know
7.
what that is.
I don't know, but I can't hear it anymore. I can't.
Well,
I refuse to look it up. I don't want to know. I want to live in ignorance and bliss.
our oldest is
Yeah,
only 8,
yeah.
and I'm already hearing bruh. He has called me bruh, and I'm like, actually, no, that is not my name. Get it straight.
Correct. My 5-year-old came home and called me bruh one day, and I said, "Let me get this straight. I am mommy, and that's it." I responded nothing else.
Well, the next get to know you question, Betsy, is, because we're all from the South, what is your favorite Southern dish?
There are many that I love. I would definitely have to go shrimp and grits.
That's very Carolina, like South Carolina, low country. Oh, some of the best food.
Yeah. Half my family is from the low country of South Carolina. So that's where my dad, my sister, my stepmom have lived for 30 plus years. So, and it better be fresh shrimp, like off the boat, just got it that day or day
Ooh.
before.
Yes.
I love all things shrimp. Throw shrimp on anything and I'll
Mhm.
just about eat it.
Same.
Well, so we did a wonderful introduction of you, if I do say so myself, but can you give the listeners just a little bit of your background, like a 2-minute highlights reel of, how you got started in your career up to now leading the amazing Tier 4?
Yeah, let me tackle that in 2 minutes or less.
Challenge
Out
accepted.
of college, graduated from UGA, right? Time me. Out of college, graduated from UGA, got recruited by a recruiter to interview at a large tech recruiting firm. And I'm like, what is this? Never heard of this as a career. But interviewed, got the job, loved it. Just didn't love the place that I was at. And so made a couple moves, started managing on the sales side of recruiting, managed large national accounts for some pretty large big guys in the industry. And then 11 years ago, took the entrepreneurial path to start Tier 4. And here we are, 7 locations across the U.S., headquartered in here in Atlanta. And we do tech recruiting and executive search for companies in 4 categories. So insurance, healthcare, supply chain manufacturing, and financial services. Did I do it? 2 minutes or less?
Woohoo! That was less than 2. That was great.
That was less. That was amazing.
So, team, we are super excited to be trying this podcast for about the 4th time now. As you may notice, as the final edit of this podcast episode, we have had a series of technical glitches. So, we are super excited that our guest, Betsy, is still with us. It is actually a completely different day than when we tried this originally. So, we've really tried to make sure we get this in the mix. Now, as we restart for the 5th time, trying to record this podcast episode in case you just missed the 1 minute ago start. We're super excited. Betsy's hanging in there with us. Maybe we've got this figured out by now. Who knows? We're going to give it another go. So Betsy, where we left off was we were talking about how the career landscape has shifted. 15 years ago, 10 years ago, 5 years ago, how you climb a ladder, how you progress in your career looks different, right? Sometimes you take steps back to take steps forward. Sometimes you take steps left or right. It doesn't always have to be the traditional employee, manager, senior manager, that sort of path. So as you help people navigate today's kind of career workplace, how are you helping them through that process and thinking about it a little bit differently with people as they talk about what they want in a career?
Yeah, it's I wish people would just like envision a ladder and just kick it over and stop thinking about a career in that way. And you guys have heard me say this before, but I prefer to think of it more as a lattice. Picture a lattice or a trellis, where you can kind of go left, to your point, left, right, down, center. And so oftentimes, especially as there's so many different facets and areas of the business, and I'm going to come at it a technology lens because that's the lens we all view things through. But you're going to probably make such a better technologist if you've spent some time in the business for a little bit and then you come back. Or I had a very dear friend who was interviewing recently for a CIO role, large $1 billion plus company, and had not had a CIO title, but had had multiple C-level roles inside of organizations, but was coming from the business and said, I'm going to be a much better candidate for you than someone who's just stayed in this one path and this one trajectory. So I think as people navigate their careers forward, it's not all traditional like it was back in the day with, accounting and finance. Like I think of those as very career ladder traditional positions. It's go get experience over here, go get exposure over here. spend time in dev, but then also maybe spend some time in QA or spend some time as a business analyst or a project manager on the tech side and get exposure to all areas of the business. The other thing that you're seeing too is you're seeing this whole generation of people who don't necessarily want to be people leaders. There aren't enough people that want to be people leaders. So you're seeing almost the tracks of someone who's doing the people leadership, but then someone else who's doing the technical leadership, or more of the specific technology role. So you also don't have to necessarily be a people leader forever if that's not your thing. Now you're not going to be a CEO or a COO or something like that if you can't manage people and manage a team. But there's equally as important and impactful roles inside of organizations that have nothing to do with people leadership.
Well, and I think too, with today's marketplace, it's also being a people leader does not mean you make the most money. Like, I think for the longest time, people felt like if I don't get into management, I'm never going to make, the six figures. Like, there are opportunities, especially in technology, where potentially you could make more than a people leader if you're a specialist and you kind of double down in that area. Is that similar to what you're still seeing, Betsy?
Absolutely. And I would tell people oftentimes, and it depends on their particular area and sector, but even I coach a lot of people in sales and recruiting as well. And oftentimes your sales leader or your people leader should be making less on the sales side than some of their salespeople, right? But yeah, same on the technology side. I mean, you have someone who's leading a team, but then you also have, senior architects and very specialized positions and SMEs who are oftentimes making the same, if not more, in their career. So definitely does not have to take a people leader path to end up making, the most money, so to speak. And you have trade roles right now. I mean, take tech and professional roles out of it. I mean, you have trade roles, earning 100, 200, 250 in some cases. Data center electrical engineers, like there's just journeymen, right? I mean, and there's a shortage of those careers. So it's not necessarily all about what ladder you can climb and sitting in this like management seat as a leader of people. There's so many other things that you can do and explore in your career.
How do you find that organizations are responding to this thought process, right? Like as you're partnering with them to do their recruiting, and you're seeing some of these resumes come through, you're talking to some of these candidates, and you completely understand where they've been and why they've been there and how that brings value to that role. But what's the response on the organization side to that way of thinking?
Yeah, it's a two-parter answer. I would say some are very forward thinking and they're looking more in that skills-based hiring framework, right? And tools are always changing, things are always changing. So I want to get the right, skill set, mindset, culture fit, someone who's completely capable and adaptable to do the role. But there's also then the person who might be the frontline hiring manager and they need a certain thing at a certain time. And it's a matter of fitting in the right person to get that one specific thing done. And I think that is where a lot of organizations, it's like this push-pull, and where we get into trouble is, okay, well then what happens 12 months from now or 24 months from now? That's why you end up seeing some of the folks leaving because they hired something into a permanent role that maybe should have been a contractor or maybe should have been a project, right? If you just needed them for that particular skill set. So I see some, organizations are oftentimes the bigger, the slower to adopt change and are probably 10, 20 years behind. But then there's others absolutely that are very forward thinking and quote unquote getting it right, who, are thinking more in that skills based lane and not the, immediate need that might only be a 3 to 6 month type of need and then, fades away.
I wonder if it's sort of tied into this generational concept we've seen. Like, you remember the big college push, like the university push, like you had to do college prep in high school, and then you needed to go to a 4-year university, and you needed to learn something leadership oriented which I think, was really heavy into like business leadership and things like that were super general. And the emphasis on trade jobs and tech jobs and specialist jobs, I feel like got less attention and were viewed differently. And, the university path was the big thing. It kind of sounds very similar, where now I feel like the trade stuff's coming back, the specialist stuff's coming back. And I think that pendulum, in the recruiting and the career path has got to catch up to it too.
Yeah, I agree.
Well, and I think in some cases, I think you're also going to find that your trade jobs are going to end up making more than some of your tech jobs and leadership jobs, because those skill sets are missing. I mean, people need those, like you need someone to come and build a house for you, right? Like you need those skills. So at some point, those are going to outweigh the high leadership tech jobs.
Yeah. And although all of us, I'm sure, are sick of the words AI, or the letters AI, but I mean, that's a reality, right? And what jobs is AI not going to immediately replace or impact? And to me, it is those trade jobs. It is the jobs that you need the physical human being, still either doing the job, and making those critical decisions. Whereas many of the tech jobs, I'm not saying all of them, but there's some that, AI is going to be really great at coding.
Yeah.
Already is in some cases, right? And really great at QA. So, I think as we lean into looking at a career lattice or just other areas where people can explore, look at the roles that AI is not going to immediately impact.
Well, and on the AI front, Betsy, as you get thousands of resumes, right? And I know there are AI tools out there that help sort through resumes and kind of go through that for people and take that load off. What advice do you give people when they are trying to search for a job and they might get caught in one of those AI engines? Like, is there a certain way people should be putting their resumes together now that's maybe a little bit different than historically they have been?
Yeah, and I'll be honest, we use adaptive AI in our screening. We launched it earlier this year, in the beginning of the year, and we're very careful, like certain accounts, certain customers that we use it with, and we're very careful, like when we insert it into the process. But it actually, in our instance, because we receive so many resumes, oftentimes which are fake or AI generated and not even real people. Having that inserted in our process actually speeds up the time that someone gets to a human faster. So for us, it helps to kind of weed through and also get to some of the root of having someone tell their own story, right? And get that to a human faster. So, I certainly appreciate AI when done well as part of the process. I don't know that anybody's 100% gotten it right yet or will get it right. I think this is like the pendulum is swinging the other way. So just as much as people are using AI to generate their resumes, like I said earlier, there's also a ton of candidates that are not real, that are being influx of candidates into recruiters and hiring managers' inboxes that are not real candidates. So I'd say be careful, use it as a framework. I love the phrase that AI is your intern. So you're not going to let an intern make critical decisions for you or be kind of the final answer on anything, but use it to helps kickstart ideas, use it to help maybe rephrase some of your sentences, but don't use it to write everything for you. And we can all tell for the most part. I'm sure maybe in a couple of years we won't be able to, but we can all tell as well.
What is that dash? What is that double dash that turns into a long
the
dash?
M dash, but I love it too. I loved an M dash before ChatGPT and AI came out, and now I'm like, damn it, I can't use it.
It's kind of
because
sad.
Someone's gonna think AI wrote it. But yeah, that's a dead giveaway, and there's definitely some keywords that are giveaways. I don't know if I should say this or not, but I'll just say recently I was looking at some awards nominations, and I was one of the people reviewing the nominations. And when you start to read like a dozen of those back to back to back, just like you read resumes, I almost was like, after the first 3 or 4 sentences, I was like, ugh, somebody didn't write this. Like, this is somebody threw this into to AI and didn't even like take the time to like thoughtfully craft their answers. And I think the
They
same,
didn't refine it.
yeah, same for a resume. But I think just advice to people always, it's about the impact and not just putting bullets on a job description. So it's not like, taking the job description that HR gave you and throwing those bullets on a resume. No, you want to know what you did, what you, I like the acronym saved, achieved, made, like very specific things that cannot be replicated and the AI cannot write for you of what you did to impact that organization, how you were different, not just were you a project manager. Tell us about the size, the scope, what you drove on the team, what obstacles you helped the company overcome, and what was the impact to the business. So people that tend to think that way and highlight those things on their resumes always to me go to the top of the pile, and you can tell with or without AI.
There's always a contingent of our podcast where we try to talk about things from a mom lens, right? Because we're all moms here. You're a mom. So, what advice would you give to kids in high school, college, people that are getting ready to go into the workforce, whether you're going into tech, whether you're going into a trade job, what advice would you give someone from your perspective that's going into the workforce of what are things you can do to set yourself up for success and set yourself up to be differentiated from the group that's, all these kids are trying to get the same internship, let's say, out of college?
Yeah, I have a 10-year-old, as you guys know, a 10-year-old son, and he came home a couple weeks ago and basically said, "Why do I have to go to school anymore? I can learn everything on YouTube." Um, and to a degree, I thought like a little bit like you're not wrong. Just like all of us were told by our teachers with our TI 92 calculators that were like this big, that there's no way we'd ever walk around with a calculator in our pocket to do all of our math for us. And I'm like, yep, I pretty much walk around with a calculator 24/7 on my phone. So for me, it would be giving them the advice that it's still this generation of like texting and emailing, like those human skills, the communication skills, the critical thinking skills, the empathy, the adaptability, the flexibility, because they're going to see a world that is changing faster than any of us ever saw. And they're going to have to be adaptable, flexible, and show that to a potential employer or internship that they can change, they can learn a new technology, they can pivot, they can implement whatever it may be, but that they can work together and partner, and they're not just you know doing everything through their phone and emailing and texting all the time. So I think it's those like soft skills that this generation needs to hone in on. And anything they can do to highlight that to a potential employer is going to put them at the top of the list.
Yeah, I think that was one of the best courses I probably took in college was public speaking. And a lot of people didn't take it, and you could tell when you got in the workforce, like the difference between somebody who had went through a public speaking course or a presentation course versus someone who kind of skipped over that. And so that communication style is really important. So if you're looking for, what classes to take in college, because you got to fill your fill your day, right?
Yep.
Those are sorts of things that I'd seek out as well as you're building those skill sets Betsy's talking about.
Absolutely. And I think as all of our kids get into the workforce, that's just important things for us to instill into them, right? Because I don't think high school particularly does a great job of preparing you for real life, much less for getting out, getting a job, what path do you go on. I know that for one, when I graduated, people said, "Oh, you've got plenty of time. You can do, you go to school and just figure out your path there." That's not actually true. It costs to figure out your path, and that's extra years that you've wasted inside college. So I think it's important to help our kids and anybody else that we come in like contact with on how to do
Yeah.
that
And
better.
and realize that college isn't for everybody. Like to
Right.
Betsy's point about trade schools, right? Like that may be your calling. And go follow that and be unapologetic about it, right? Like you don't have to do a particular thing. The world is now has so many jobs, so many different jobs, so many new jobs are going to be created that we can't even fathom right now, right? So follow what your passion is and be serious about it, right? Like when you look at a career and you look at what you want to do, no matter where you are in your career, if you are committed to the outcome, you'll make it happen, right? It doesn't matter what it is. You just have to show that commitment and put that same passion and energy towards it like you would your favorite football team because it's football season. I know we got some Dogs fans on here, right? So like
Woof, 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 woof.
there you go. See, set you up. I'm gonna say go Tigers now just to get it in. But
The other two of us were also doing that. We were just on mute, just so everybody knows.
yeah,
I'm
gotta
not
clarify
embarrassed. I don't get embarrassed by anything.
that. No, you do not.
I
That
sure don't.
is-
Correct.
That is
Correct.
100% facts. But yeah, just be passionate about it. I think that that'll really set you up no matter where you are in your career.
If I could, in the last couple minutes we have with you, Betsy, before I got to know you, I knew nothing about recruiting. I had no insight into the thoughts of a recruiter. So if I could ask you a couple rapid fire, like I'm thinking of like, it's kind of just pulling back the curtain for people who just don't get to talk to a recruiter like this. Okay. Hopefully it doesn't put you on the spot too much. So I liked the advice you had for like writing your resume, those, not doing the bullets, but what do you feel like is one of the biggest mistakes candidates make when they go into an interview? Like a resume gets them in the door, they get the interview, they crash and burn. Is there a theme?
Yeah. They don't prepare. They don't show up prepared.
Mm-hmm.
They don't take the time to look at LinkedIn, look about the hiring manager that they're speaking with or managers, take the time to review the website, understand what that company, or at least try to understand and then maybe verify that. And then I'm going to add a second thing on there because I have written blogs on this. I will die on this hill. A thank you note. It does not have to be a handwritten note that you mail. Goes such a long way. I have seen that over the course of 20 years be the tiebreaker between hires a lot, not just once or twice, where we get to the finals and there are two great candidates and literally who wrote a thank you note is who got hired. So those are two things. Absolutely prepare and write a thank you note.
That's really good to know. Do you have any tips for answering the tell me about yourself question? I feel like any interview I've ever been in, they always start with, so tell me a little bit about yourself.
And it can go one of two ways. You can either like get nothing from a person, or you could get a 15-minute conversation and they've been talking and told you their entire life story. You know where they grew up, but you've not learned anything about
what's the happy medium. Like what's the good compromise?
Yeah. First of all, it's a terrible interview question, so stop it. If you're a hiring manager listening to this, stop it.
I love that.
Because people don't know how to answer it. And to your point, Cassandra, like, do you want my whole life story? Like, should I start at college? So it's not that you can't say get something about getting to know you, but either asking something specifically about their background or, where they started or starting at a certain point. So there's better interview questions out there. But if you are asked that, which probably happens a ton to people, this is where you've got to have the EQ and not go on for 15 minutes in a monologue. So I'd have like a very high level, like everybody's kind of got that elevator pitch, but then I would ask them a question back. Did that answer your question? Or is there anything specific in my last role or about this technology or XYZ that you'd like to know more about? Did that answer your question? So if someone prompts you with a tell me about yourself, give a good, short, succinct answer, but ask a question back to make sure that you answered it.
That's good advice.
Yeah, that's really good.
As a hiring manager, I would definitely, you're off the island if you've talked about yourself for 15 minutes immediately.
It's a red flag.
Y'all are also really great interviewers, so you're not going to start with that question.
Oh, thank you.
Thanks, Betsy.
Last but certainly not least, are you seeing any trends worth noting in the job market right now? Like specifically in tech, because we work in tech and talk a lot about tech. Aside from the obvious AI, anything you're noticing? I keep hearing the market's difficult right now.
It's odd. And I feel like that was the same as it was last year. Everyone's like, oh, it'll be better next year. I mean, we're definitely still seeing tons of clients and tons of different industries hiring. But I think people need to maybe look at some non-traditional areas within tech and transformation. So, not everybody can work for a Google or a Facebook or a Meta. Look at, like manufacturing is doing some really awesome things right now with automation and data. But the other trend, is data. Every company like data hygiene and then data analytics. And, then what business decisions can you make, with that data? So that would be an area that if someone's either looking to pivot or someone's looking to, look at a career path that is like in tech, but not necessarily like hardcore coding, or maybe they were a developer and they want to do something different. The data side is king right now, just like cloud was a couple of years ago.
Very cool. Well, Betsy, thank you so much for joining us. This has been so cool. I feel like I could sit here and talk to you about this stuff for 2 hours. So you have to come back. We have got to continue this conversation. I think this episode's going to be a huge hit.
Well, thank you for having me. And I'd love to be back and talk about all kinds of different things. We can talk about coffee and Southern food, favorite dishes, and college football.
And next time we're going to talk about some mayo, because I hear that there's some differing of opinions on this topic. Maybe we can get that in the episode when it finally releases. But yeah, thank you so much for coming on. We really, really appreciate it. And Carmi, take us home.
Thank you guys for tuning in to another episode of Coffee Meets Cloud. Please follow us on our socials at Coffee Meets Cloud, or check out our website at coffeemeetscloud.com. Drop us a line, follow the show, give us a rating. It really helps. And we hope we'll see you next time. Bye, guys.
Bye, guys.
Bye.